and he is going to make a short opening statement, and we'll open up for questions.
Hey guys, I'm excited to be here at the University of South Carolina. I'm excited to be able to come to a great institution. It's in a big time conference, and look forward to helping contribute to get us back to our winning ways. It's excited and ready to go.
First question goes to David Cloninger.
Hey, Torrian, David Cloninger with the Charleston Post and Courier here. I hope you're doing well and settling in. Just looking at your position group, they seem to be hit the hardest since the end of last season. 5 guys went ahead and moved on. So have you looked at your room and who you're starting to kind of pencil in where at those kind of spots?
Yes, I have. Tried to familiarize myself with the guys, kind of looked at who's coming back and what plays that they have last year, and try to get an idea of where we're at from a talent assessment standpoint so we can move on.
Mike Yuba.
Torrian, I mean, this is something that we've kind of talked about with some of these other coaches these last couple of weeks. What was the first impression when you walked up into this ops building? And just from, a coaching standpoint, what do you think a building like that can do from a recruiting standpoint, and just being able to get this program turned around in the way that Coach Beamer and I'm sure yourself and the rest of the coaches envision this program being able to do?
Well, I was thoroughly impressed with the facilities. When I walked in the building, I was in awe. And, when you're in the arms race against the people we're going against in this conference and in the country from a recruiting standpoint, the players, it's awesome that we have a facility that the players can walk in and be like, wow, this is awesome. So, you need that as an aspect of the recruiting to help.
Josh Kendall.
Hi, Torrian. Josh Kendall with The Athletic. You've been various places and come into contact with various strength coaches who in general are a unique breed of guy, odd group of guys. So you've met Luke Day now for a day or two. Where does he rank so far on the sort of strength coach oddness? We'll call it oddness scale right now.
I guess in their business, in the strength industry, oddness is a good thing. The odder the guys, it seems like the better those guys are. That guy is if not the most important guy in the building, one of the most important guys in the building, because he's around our players all the time. And Luke has a great presence about himself, a great oddness about himself that I'm excited about, because I've been around some good ones and know what they look like, what they sound like, and know how they can grab players' attentions and get the maximum out of players. And he seems like he's of that ilk.
What's the most important thing you think they can convey to players? If there's one thing that's at the top of that list. You
got to strain. It's, college football isn't easy. Anything that these student athletes do, nothing's easy. And you just got to be able to strain, and you got to be able to understand how to push through stuff. And if those guys can convey that, it'll make our job easier going forward as coaches.
Thank you, Torrian.
Mm-hmm.
Colin Taylor.
Torrian, Colin Taylor from the Rival site here in Columbia. I'm just curious, how has recruiting gone now that you've been here? What's been the reception from some of the guys that you've been recruiting? And when you are out there recruiting, I guess, defensive backs, what are some traits that you're specifically looking for in that group?
We're just trying to hit the ground running here recruiting. You come in and, kind of got to recruit corners. You got to recruit safeties. You're trying to fill in for the spots that have been voided in. You're just trying to reach out, evaluate as much film as we can, get guys that have already been offered. And you're just trying to hit that thing running and connect with as many guys as possible, see what responses we're getting back and go from there. I'm sorry, I the last part of your question on that was?
Just what are some things that you're looking for, some traits or skills that you're looking for in a defensive back?
All of us, I assume defensive back coaches are the same. We want long, fast guys, long, tall, fast guys that can play the ball. And, everybody's kind of going after those guys with intangibles, guys that love football, some other things that you look for, but you're kind of looking for certain traits, certain variables and measurements to start off with.
Mitch Brown.
Coach, obviously, you've had ties with Coach Beamer, but also when you think about your time and your last stop in Washington, covered you there. And obviously you had DJ Swearinger leading the league in interceptions at one point, but there was a togetherness in that secondary room Obviously, there's been a lot of attrition here at Columbia, but what do you plan to do to make sure that there's this togetherness there as a unit so it shows on the field?
Well, the biggest thing you have to do, Mitch, is we have to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're all working towards the same goal, and that's to be the best secondary in the country, be the best secondary in the SEC, set our goals high, but we need each other all on one accord. And that's the first line of business. You want to be that group back there, because you can win and lose games by the plays you make or you don't make on that back end. Got to be on the same page. You got to believe with what you're doing. You got to believe in each other. We got to be coached, got to be coached well, and all those things. It's just so much that encompasses with that group, and that's what we're going to start doing here, or what we've started to do here.
Dick Cox.
Hi, Coach. I'm Dick Cox with Lindy Sports and Cox Sports Broadcasting. Kind of following up on that last question, you've inherited a position that there's no starters at this point really coming back. How do you go? What's the first thing you've got to do to go about rebuilding that position?
First thing we're going to go about doing is with the guys that we got, is all you can work with. And with the guys that we got, we're going to build confidence in those guys. That's why I put on my Twitter handle, the new DBU. You got to come in, you got to give those who we got and what we're working with a certain mindset that, you know, we're going to be as good as anybody in the country. We just got to prepare and start with what we got. We got to work our tails off in the weight room. Once we start meeting, we got to meet with a purpose. And everything we do has got to be with a purpose. And it's just, you know, kind of be tunnel vision on what we got to do and the work we got ahead of us, because we're kind of coming from the bottom of the hole with the departures and those things like that, and a lack of experience. But I think that's going to be an exciting challenge for us.
Matt Connolly.
Torrian, you mentioned trying to be the new DBU. Just how much do you sell the success that South Carolina has had with DBs and you've had with DBs on recruiting, and how do you kind of use that moving forward?
I think all the above is going to help us. I seen, as I was looking to get the job here, someone put out something on Twitter, and it had the tradition talking about South Carolina defensive backs. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And we have a great tradition here with defensive backs, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be proud of that. So that's why I put up the new DBU, and the guys have got to, believe, and the guys we're recruiting, the guys that are already here, we got to believe that, hey, we're of that ilk and we can beat those guys. And, so that's kind of the mindsets that we got to approach it. We're going to approach it with.
And along those same lines, Coach Beamer was talking about you had other opportunities that you could have considered, but wanted to come to South Carolina. Can you kind of share what that process was like and ended up at South Carolina?
Well, obviously you got to weigh your options when you're in the position I was in. And I knew Shane had just gotten a job here. And obviously I know Shane. We played together back at Virginia Tech. We've coached together with his dad. And I know Shane knows me. I know what kind of person Shane is. And it's important to me to be able to, work with someone and like I told Shane, man, I know this is your first head coaching job, man, and I want to come help you hit this thing running. And like I said, it was fortunate that it just worked out.
John Del Bianco.
Hey, Torrian, I'm John with the Big Spur and the 24/7 sports site. We had already talked a little bit about you coaching DJ Swearinger there in Washington. I'm just curious, what was it like coaching him up there, and how often did he talk about his upbringing in South Carolina and kind of the culture and his era of football here in Columbia?
DJ was, honestly, and I've told DJ this, the smartest guy that I've coached. Just a very high football IQ, and that's what's allowed DJ to still be in the league after the amount of years he's been doing this. The things I learned about South Carolina, well, him and Josh Norman were both South Carolina guys that were in that secondary. So I got a lot of South Carolina talk. Now, it's not we necessarily talked about the tradition of the DBUs there, but I got to hear a lot about South Carolina football from those respects, because DJ definitely can talk and carry on his conversations. But like I said, it was great. And I actually learned some things as a player, to learn something from a player, just from how professional he was and how he carried himself and how his mental approach to the game helped me become better as a coach.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Kornblut.
Hey, Coach, it's Phil Kornblut, Sports Talk Media Network here in South Carolina. So your days at Virginia Tech facing off against Shane in practice, how did you feel when he lined up across from you? How often did he beat you deep? What were those battles like?
Well, we had certain guys that oh man, that's Coach Beamer's son that wanted to go against Shane, and I'm going to make a point on Coach Beamer's son. I was never that guy. I was like, man, I don't want Coach Beamer to be mad at me or something if I did something wrong to Shane or whatnot. So I honestly never went against Shane, but we had some other guys who wanted, I guess, to go against the coach's son. That was a big deal to them.
And Dennis Brunson.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Dennis Brunson. I'm with the Sumter Item newspaper. I'm about 40 miles down the road from you. And I know you really haven't had a chance to get to know guys yet and all that, but O'Donnell Fortune, he's from Sumter. What impresses you with what you've seen of him on film and in any kind of meetings you've had with him?
Well, we're not allowed to meet with the guys at this point. And like I said, I tried to get as much research on the players that played some plays. O'Donnell didn't have a lot of plays that I've seen, but I see his length, I see his frame, and he did have a couple plays. He had some plays that stood out. So I'm looking forward to see how he's going to progress this offseason in the weight room and what he's like mentally and those things as we approach spring ball.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you.
And I don't see any more hands up, so we will let Coach Gray go. We'll get a picture of him quick here, and then we'll get on with Jimmy Lindsay.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Torrian.
Okay.